What up? What up? What up? Welcome in to the first 2022 edition of Green with Envy Postgame Live, part of the 617 podcast and proudly brought to you by Crowworthy. Checking in from my own quarantine zone, health and safety protocols even come for the podcast boys here. Checking in here, it's your boy Will Weir, and joining me as he does each and every time from what looks like a cave in his house. It's the one and only, my best friend, coach of the podcast, Greg Manakis. What's going on, man?
What's up, bro? What's up? This is the perfect night to talk about the Celtics. Every fucking time that you tell me we're going to do a post-game live, I'm like, all right, well, Celtics going to lose. So I got to figure out fun things to talk about because the game's not going to be fun. This game actually had some really interesting moments. It sucks that we lost. We found a new way to lose, seemingly. I'm like upset, but on some level, dude, honestly, I'm actually happy that the Celtics are still able to make me feel this upset. Because a couple games ago, I was like, oh, I'm just dead inside. Like, there's just no way that I'm ever going to care about another game. Like, we suck. We win the last game. Jalen scores 50. Tatum comes back tonight. And I'm just like, oh, this is the game, right? This is where everything starts going. The ship is going in the right direction. We have this opportunity. Jalen, we play amazing defense at the end of the game. Like, how did we not score a basket in the last 45 seconds when we pretty much caused like 4 turnovers in 45 seconds and got one shot, which was a pretty easy layup?
Yeah. From the one guy that was really providing a spark all game. So it's hard to come out and criticize that. And literally, I mean, if you look at that last play, it was just given. It was literally handed pretty much the ball to us at that last play. But it's like clockwork, and it's very similar to that, that Al Pacino famous movie clip. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. That's just the Celtics 2021-2022 edition. It just keeps on happening. We're going to get into the Celtics, obviously, with a tough loss tonight, 99-97 at the hands of the San Antonio Spurs at the TD Garden. But shout out to those of you that are joining us live right now, either on Twitter or YouTube. And if you listen to us in the podcast, as always, we appreciate and love your support. This is the first one of 2022, man. I haven't seen you in person yet. As I referenced, I'm in a bit of my own health and safety protocols right
I
now. But
know,
Happy New
man. How
Year,
you
my guy.
feeling? Happy New Year to you too, man. I see that you got your lob jersey on.
Oh, we
Lob
gotta have
hoodie.
we both rocking the lob right now. And if you don't have it, go hit crowworthy.com, hit the store in the drop down, and go find your Lob Williams gear today.
You know what's crazy though, man? Like, one, if you've been following us on Twitter, you know that with Smartwater designed this, right? So shout out Crowworthy for funding the project. Shout out Crowworthy always. But we came to Smartwater with this ridiculous sketch. We had an idea. We were like, oh, we just want like a silhouette of Rob Williams dunking a basketball. But then the sketch that I gave her was basically like nobody knew what it was. Like somehow she was able.
Both our
Go ahead, describe
girlfriends
it.
that it looked like a chicken.
It somehow looked like a chicken. It's just like the worst sketch in the world. That's on Twitter somewhere. We'll pull it up at some point. But she turned it into this dope hoodie. We DM Rob Williams on Instagram. He responds. He says he loves the design. And Crowworthy sends him one of these like triple XLs. And he wears it to the game the next game. And it was literally on. They like showed Rob walking into the building wearing this jersey. Rob Williams wears this hoodie. So like, if you like the Celtics, if you like Rob Williams, if you're a believer in the Rob Williams nickname, why are you not on Crowworthy right now getting this hoodie? It's dope. It's super comfy. One thing I will say, though, they run a little small. So I would definitely order 1 or 2 sizes up. I would say 1 size and then be careful in the washing machine because it's cotton, right? If you wash it on hot or if you dry it on high heat, that thing might shrink on you. So make sure we're warning you right now. Get 1 size up, wash it on cold, and then let it air dry.
Yeah, I got the XL and it's fitting great right now. I got to be careful when I go ahead and wash it, but the XL's fitting real comfy. It's been a little chilly for us Texas boys now. We've gone soft out here, so it's getting a little chilly
True.
here in the
True.
morning. So it's been perfect right now for the weather that we got going. But actually seeing Rob wear something that that we've worked on was pretty surreal, man. So that was something I don't think we've had a chance to really talk about on the podcast yet. But being able to see that, and then I think it was the next game he went and put up that that triple double line against the Phoenix Suns, and like I said, sucked us right back in. Big win against the Suns, 50 piece from JB, getting everybody back tonight, and things happen. But there it is for those of you that are joining us live here on either Twitter or YouTube. That is the Rob Williams hoodie with the man himself rocking it to the game at the Garden. Shout out to our guy, Rob Williams.
Yeah, let's get into talking about this game a little bit though, bro. Because, like, how
Do
are
we
you
have to?
feeling right now? I mean, let's talk about for a little bit, just a little bit. I know, like, we'll try and bring some levity to everybody's night. You know, it's a Wednesday night back on the East Coast. It's 10:20, so shout out to anyone staying up with this right now. But let's just talk about it a little bit because I think there were some things that we can take away as quote unquote silver linings or green linings, however you want to phrase it. Like Jaylen Brown, once again, was scorching hot. I think he only ended up with 30 points. Obviously, that great play at the end of the game, like when he stole the ball from Derek White and then lost the jump ball, which I was very surprised that he lost that jump
Yeah.
ball. But he knocked the ball away, then dove and beat him to the floor. Then he got fouled. He honestly got fouled. Derek White smacked him right in the face and like raked him across the eyes. So like he probably should have been at the free throw line at that point. Like JB, I really like what I've seen out of JB because we were worried about him for a little bit, but he seems to be turning around. The decision making is still pretty bad. Like he has tunnel vision all the time. Like on that last play, I know it's tough. Like you get a steal, you just thinking I need to get to the basket. But like
5
if he
seconds
was
left,
a heady
yeah.
player, like his head's up and he sees Tatum and he stays to the left side of the floor and that's like an alley-oop dunk or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like, but at that point, like beggars can't be choosers, right? We somehow stopped them on back-to-back inbounds plays where they couldn't even inbound the ball, and that dude threw the ball right to
Right to
JB.
him. He panicked. He
Right to him.
panicked. Just
He
handed
did
it to
panic.
him. Like I think JB was even surprised. Like he just got this gift right in his, right in his chest. Like it was like he meant to pass it to JB. It was that bad of a pass that it
Yeah.
was just right to him. And so I think there was a little bit of that initial shock of just, oh crap, I have like he just literally handed it to me. But
Yep.
it's tough because like tonight, and I tweeted about this earlier in the game. I loved that JB mindset early on that he had where he was just super aggressive and in the turn and early on the turnovers didn't come. He was playing smart basketball while being aggressive. And he doesn't necessarily, like, of course we want him to be a better playmaker, but it doesn't necessarily, depending on the rest of the team, have to be a necessity. And if that's just not his role, that's fine. We just need to
Mhm.
make sure that that turnover to assist ratio that has to change. That just can't happen. And it's you did that great coach's corner video, on time, on target. It's the simple stuff. Like I
Mhm.
think of there was that stretch right around the 5 minute mark or so where it was a little under the 5 minute mark, which just a disaster, about 5 straight possessions. And pretty much neither of the Jays got a look except for Jaylen Brown was in a pick and roll with Josh Richardson, had Josh Richardson open in the lane, but just threw a lob that went pretty much down to the baseline, like
Yeah.
felt like it was 8 feet over his head. And it's like you just got to simplify and make those type of plays. The simple
Mhm.
plays that are there for you, make those simpler. But that's an ongoing process that we've been talking about. But should we just get into the morning box score and talk about the game from there?
Yeah, dude. Let's get into the morning box show. We'll talk about the game, and then we got some fun stuff to talk about. Especially if you guys have been following us, you know that my cousin is he's like literally on air right now. Like I'm doing this for y'all because my cousin is on Lifetime Married at First Sight right now. Married at First Sight filmed in Boston this past year. So my cousin Steve Moy, shout out Steve. I've heard some rough nicknames for him so far.
What's
My
the best?
favorite
What's the? Yeah, go ahead.
my favorite nickname. So my cousin Steve, he's like a big like Bitcoin guy and Ethereum guy. So like he's always kind of done his own thing. He's been in Ethereum since like 2014, so like Steve's doing all right for himself. But on the show, they keep presenting him as being jobless. Right. So the best one that I've seen so far is Stay at Home Steve, which is actually pretty funny. Like that's pretty funny. But Steve Moy's the man. It's great seeing him on Lifetime, and I hope everyone gets to follow along in his journey with his bride, Noy.
So we're gonna have some maths talk here at the end of the podcast. But real quick, because I know Steve as well, and you and I have talked about this. Did they ask him not to mention Bitcoin, or is that something maybe if he chose to do? Because like you
I don't
said,
know.
it's making him seem like more of a bum than he actually is.
Yeah. I don't know about that, man. To be honest with you, it's really interesting. I guess we're just talking about Married at First Sight now. We'll get to the game when we get to the game. But like,
No,
it's
no, let's
really
do the game
interesting.
first. But I just
Okay,
wanted to
okay,
ask that real quick. But
okay. Yeah.
we'll
We'll
come
get back
back
to
to
that.
that, and we got to bring Steve on the show. Steve, you're gonna come on the show at some point. We got to talk about it. But let's get into it because it's what we do on the show, friendship and basketball. We got to talk about the basketball part here. We'll come back to the friendship. That
Do
never
we have to?
leaves.
Yeah, we do. We
It
have to.
never leaves. We got to talk about it. So Celtics, unfortunately, 99-97 defeat at home to the San Antonio Spurs. Let's start with the Spurs here. And there's really only one guy to go to with the Spurs. He's become a Celtic killer, man. there's a certain guys that just kill the Celtics. DeJounte Murray is absolutely starting to become one of those guys that's on that list. Just was everywhere tonight. 22 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds, 3 steals. It just felt like he had his fingerprints all over the game. They were hunting that Rob Williams mismatch in the pick and roll for a while, and just felt like they were winning that every single time. Devin Vassell added 17 points. Kendall Johnson 13 points as well. Each of them had 6 boards, and then Derek White 17 points for him. And I thought he had some pretty big defensive positions. You mentioned the foul that probably wasn't called. We'll have to see that last 2-minute review when they come out with that from officiating tomorrow. But he had a couple big possessions against Tatum where he stripped him towards the end of the shot clock, and then the offensive foul call against Jaylen Brown. But those are the key guys from the San Antonio Spurs side. From the Celtics side, on the bright side, I get a lot of guys back today. Health and safety has been coming for the league. It's starting to kind of level out. A lot of guys came back today, especially Jason Tatum. Ended up playing 37 minutes, a little bit high for his first game back, especially given with what his COVID symptoms were a year ago. Not sure how sensitive he would be with that again. But a little rough night for him, kind of getting back in the swing of things. 6 of 20, 1 of 6 from 3, ended up with 19 points, but did have 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and 0 turnovers. You talked about Jaylen Brown. He had 30 points coming off that 50-burger against the Magic. He had 6 rebounds to go along with that, but once again, 1 assist to 3 turnovers, something that definitely needs to be worked on from JB. Marcus Smart had 14 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. And then Dennis Schroeder with a classic Dennis Schroeder night that is just defining every time he plays. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. And, even though it says here only 1 turnover, just a real up and down night with some of his shot selection, some of the decisions he was making, just classic Dennis. And one of the things that's really hard, Greg, so as soon as the game ends, one of the first things I always do, just like you have NBA.com up, I come here, I kind of take a look at what I'm going to go through for the morning box score for the folks. And then I try to find usually a team stat that I think maybe is indicative of why the Celtics maybe won or lost. This one's kind of tough, man. Like if you look at just the team stats, it feels like the Celtics probably should have won this game. Rebounds, they lost that by 7, but that's not usually indicative of the modern NBA of who's going to win or lose. Celtics end up with Celtics. That's what I'm saying. That was going to be the main one I pointed out. 8 turnovers for the Celtics, 17 for the Spurs. Celtics with 10 steals to their 6, 9 blocks to their 5. 3-point shooting, 38% to 32%. Field goal percentage, roughly about the same. And so it's really tough looking at this. Points in the paint, Celtics win 48-40. Second chance points, Celtics win 13-10. It's all of these stats are kind of right there. I mean, I know it's a 2-point game, but feels like one the Celtics could have had, and it's a tough beat. But where do you want to go with this? Because like you said, there is some interesting moments that we should call out, but at the end of the day, it's a tough beat.
Yeah, I'm always looking at the number of guys that play over 20 minutes to kind of like get a feel for who Ime is leaning on. And so we have Tatum at 37. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So anytime you have 8 guys over 20 minutes, I feel like that's a pretty good number to get to. I like Schroeder at 25. Like I think the number of minutes Schroeder played is probably the right amount. Like I said on the Celtics blog pod with Adam yesterday, like Schroeder in crunch time, it just feels like that ends up being the whole all-stars to your respective corners, let Dennis and Marcus do their thing. And it's just like, don't we want the ball in Tatum and Brown's hands? And it felt like in the fourth quarter, we just didn't have the ball in their hands enough. Like when JB came back into the game, he didn't touch the ball for the first like 4 or 5 possessions. And it was just Schroeder and Smart doing their thing. So like, those are the things that kind of like anger me. But just looking at the box score, I actually thought Schroeder played a pretty good game, man. Like if that's what we get out of Schroeder, I feel like that's a pretty good role for him. And then it's on Ime just to figure out like what is the right situation for him to be playing. But I didn't have a problem with how Dennis played tonight, honestly.
Well, I mean, that's the biggest thing with Dennis. And we harping back to the Celtics blog podcast and our conversation with Adam, like you and I have both talked about this, Dennis Schroeder is the Ime Udoka, what Daniel Tice was to Brad Stevens. It's a security blanket that he feels comfortable with, even though it's probably not the right decision. And so, there's too many times where, like you just said, at the end of the game, I'm thinking back to before we have the scrum where the Celtics get the ball back twice, just a absolutely brutal possession where we end up with Schroeder, coming down the lane and essentially looked like he was trying to kick it out to Rob Williams, who we thought might be in the corner, which I don't know what that's going to do for you. And then that ends up with Rob Williams down in the paint. He doesn't really have, we've talked about this before. He doesn't have any post moves. So then from there, he's kicking it back out to Marcus Smart. We have the Jays on the wings, and now it's Marcus Smart going even one-on-one. I can't remember if it was against DeJounte Murray or Derek White, but I mean,
Yeah.
essentially that was our last real possession of the game before the mad scrum, getting the ball, at the last minute with JB trying to make a last second effort to go ahead and get it. And so it's stuff like that it just unfortunately feels like it keeps happening. And that's where the issue is sometimes with Schroeder is I think he's just not in the right, he's not being put in the right situation, and where it, sometimes it reflects on him maybe more than it should.
Yeah, and if I just look at the box score and the numbers, like I would just want to switch Richardson and Schroeder's minutes. Like they basically went into the last 5 minutes of the game both at 20, and then
Mhm.
Schroeder was on the court, Richardson was off the court. Schroeder ended up at 25, Richardson at 20. I love what Jay Rich has brought to the team, and like I think that he probably should have been on the court in crunch time. Like that's the guy that I would prefer being on the court in crunch time because you move him off to a wing and you put the ball in Tatum or Brown's hands rather than putting them on the wings and in the corners when they become floor spacers. And we just like don't have a sense of urgency to get them the ball. And
Mhm.
it's if you watch other teams and their execution down the stretch, like the ball always ends up in the right person's hands and they always seem to get a pretty good shot. And the Celtics just like never really get good shots. It's like always ends up being some like fadeaway jumper or Marcus Smart 3 or like Dennis Schroeder pull up at the free throw line. Like that's not what you want at the end of games. Not that those are bad shots, but those are bad shots in crunch time for sure. And like that's the issue that I have with Ime and playing Schroeder to the extent that he does, especially in crunch time. When Schroeder's on the court, like the best thing that he does is drive full speed to the hoop. So like I get it.
Exactly.
Like if you want him on the court, you don't want him spacing the floor, right? It makes more sense for the Jays to be floor spacers, but it does not make sense for Schroeder to have the ball over Tatum or over Brown. So like I mean, we've talked about this at length though, man. Overall, I mean, it felt like that's a game we should have won. The biggest issue, in my opinion, aside from late game execution, is that Tatum had one of those games. I texted you in the middle of the game. I was like, oh, so Tatum's having a game where he just misses everything, like
Yeah.
the layups where he bodies somebody and then he goes up and he's ready to put, a little finger roll at the rim and it just doesn't go over the rim. It literally reminds me of like when you and I haven't played pickup in a while and then we go play pickup and the ball just like a layup is the hardest thing in the world. And
Yeah.
that's what it seems like for Jason Tatum at times.
And even at times, like it feels like when you're releasing it, you're like, oh, that felt kind of good, and it's either just short, it's long, like the
Mm-hmm.
feel isn't there. Is probably the best way to describe it, and it really does kind of feel like an early season Celtic game where it's like, well, hey, Jason Tatum went 6 of 20, 30% from the field, like he usually just goes 8 of 20, and that's at least good for 5 to 6 points right there. That's a win.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's sometimes just that simple. But anything else from this game that stands out to you? Actually, one thing I do want to talk about real quick is our guy Lob Williams, who we shouted out here. Two things with him that I think Robert Williams is so dynamic, and he really is. I think one of the few guys on this team that's a ceiling raiser for this team. But there's two nitpicks that I have with him. Number one is the defensive rebounding, and Keith Smith tweeted about this a little bit as well too. Like it just feels like for a guy who you got 5 defensive rebounds tonight, 4 offensive rebounds. I said we got out rebounded by 7. There's a lot of times where he's kind of getting moved out of the way a little bit too easily, and defensively, I feel like he needs to be able to hold his ground on the defensive boards, and offensively, he's always in the mix. Absolutely love it, but unless it's a putback dunk, I just think he is way too quick to immediately kick that ball out. A lot of the times he doesn't even look at the rim or even think to give it a second option. It's like an involuntary reaction of
Mm.
it's basically a tip pass because it happens so quickly. And there's going to be times where it's great because it will probably get us, an open 3. And I know there is some data to back that up that you can get good looks from 3 off offensive rebounds. But at times, man, it's like just put the ball back up. There was a stretch
Mm-hmm.
over, I think it was right around the 9-minute mark. He got 2 offensive rebounds consecutively and never looked at the rim once. And I think that's an area of Rob's game that he's really got to look to improve going forward.
Yeah, and you're right. Like if you think about when you take warm up threes, if you're shooting around with a buddy, right? They pass you the ball from under the hoop. But in a game, you very rarely get a pass directly from under the hoop. So that's one of those situations in which it's like a warm up shot, right? Someone's passing the ball straight at you and then you're stepping into it like with momentum going towards the hoop. It just makes sense. It is a practice shot. But with Rob, like to me, even more than that, man, like when he catches the ball and people are playing off of him, right? He does a good job at like taking one dribble and finding the next guard to do a dribble handoff with into space. But tonight what I noticed was that that's what teams are now planning for, right? If they have space and they see Rob like start to turn his body, the big man no longer stays in the paint off of him. They
Hmm.
sprint up to take away that space. So the advantage that's gained by a quick dribble handoff is kind of negated. So what I would like to see is Robert Williams. He's had a couple moments this year, one time tonight, where when he's in space and he's going full speed to the rim, he's had a nice couple layups. He had that Euro step a few weeks ago, and he had that nice finish tonight on DeJounte Murray, who's a really good defender who I was expecting to strip him. So I would really like to see what it looked like if Rob Williams caught the ball with space and he had like a Jakob Poeltl in the paint and he drove at him and maybe tried to do like a Euro step or something like
Hmm.
that. And, bring some Giannis to his game where he's just being super long going to the basket, because we've seen it in the open floor a couple times, but we haven't seen that in the half court at all. So I would just like to see him try it out. If he has the space and they're playing him for this one thing, and if Pirtle's sitting 10 feet off of you and he's at the block and you have 15 feet of space, that's literally one or two dribbles, probably one dribble, and then it's a Euro step and then a finish at the rim. I would like to see him try that out just to diversify his attack on offense, because he's pretty easy to game plan for right now in the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, it's only his fourth year, so it's not like he doesn't have room to grow, and he's a very valuable part of this team. So it's just stuff that we're looking for, and it's on
Yeah.
a night when you lose
We
by
want him to
two,
reach another
like
level.
yeah, exactly, and it's these little things where like those could make a difference in a 2-point game. So those are things that I think we need to point out. But anything else from tonight that really sticks out to you? I mean, we've kind of touched on a lot of the main things, and just like we said, this feels like an early season Jason Tatum game. This feels like a game that you could probably copy and paste a lot of our analysis from earlier in the year, and we could just put it in this section because it feels like there's a lot of topics that we're just circling back to.
Yeah, I think, we'll see how the team bounces back tomorrow. Like tonight sucked. It really sucked losing this game. It was another chance to get back to 500, and we're now not at 500, which is difficult. Now we go into, second night of a back-to-back in New York, and then we play New York again this weekend. So like we had an opportunity to get to 500 and then finish out this relatively easy schedule, hopefully at like 13-3 on the month or something like that, which is just unrealistic for what this team is going to be,
Well, let's
right?
talk about that
Okay.
for 1 second, because I put a tweet out the other day, and I did it on purpose. I wanted to kind of test the waters to see where we're at. So we had talked a lot from the start of the year and then through all of last month how tough December was going to be. And at the beginning we said, hey, if they come out of this thing 8-7, 7-8, that's a big time win because it's a real tough schedule. Contextually, they got a lot of breaks, but they did not capitalize. And so the Celtics ended up 6-9, which is one game worse than what we said would have been a success, but contextually that looks a lot worse given some of the circumstances that occurred. But so I put this question out on Twitter to see what people think that the Celtics would do for the month. This is after the Magic game, so it's already 1-0. There's 16 games in the month. And there was quite a few responses that came back 13-3, 12-4, 11-5. And for me, it was a test to see if we've recalibrated expectations on this team. And for the most part, the answer is no. It may sound like gloom and doom in that, oh, hey, where like there's some people that are asking for, a rebuild or, whatever the hell they want to ask for. But there's still a lot of high hopes and expectations with this team. And, this team's been 500 over the last year plus or so now, 18-20 on the year. And so a schedule that looks like there could be some opportunity. I mean, maybe there just isn't. I mean, I think you said that maybe 10-6, which is
Mhm.
I think what I came to, because I look at it, I'm like, man, I see a path to 11-5. I see a path, but I don't know that I can believe in it. And it just feels like there's going to be a lot of these type of nights where it's a game that we feel like we could have had, a game that maybe we should have had, but at the end of the day, we just didn't.
Okay. So let's go through them. We just lost to the Spurs, who are 1-1 this month. Do we win tomorrow?
No.
Okay. So we're 1-2, and I agree with you.
That was hard to say.
Yeah, I don't think we win tomorrow either. So, like, all right, shout out Matt Liptak. Maybe we can bring him on the pod to talk about this back to back with the Knicks.
Pending
I
baby
think,
Finley's arrival.
yeah, I think we get the Knicks on Saturday, right? So we're 2-2. Then we got back
Yeah.
to back with the Pacers. So one at home, one on the road. We 100% split those, right?
Yeah, that's just what we're gonna do.
Okay, so we split those. Celtics Sixers in Philly. We lose that game.
Do we? I don't know. I feel like because
Yes.
it's Chicago on a back to back. We're winning one of those two games for no good reason.
Okay,
And we're
yes,
gonna look
okay.
great. I don't know
I don't
which
know.
one, but
All right,
yeah.
so we're still 500. Like we're not
Yep.
winning both of those games for sure. Then we get the Pelicans, who, man, that's one of those teams where like Brandon Ingram, I feel like he's just gonna like shut everybody up. Where everyone's gonna be like, really, like all Celtics fans will be like, oh, Tatum and Brown are so much better than Brandon Ingram, and then Brandon Ingram's gonna have like 45 points, and then it's gonna be all over Twitter like pick one, kill one, like whenever they
Yeah.
put three
I
players
hate
up there,
those, but yeah.
yeah. So like I think I feel like we lose that
Well,
Pelicans
well,
game.
here's the thing. So look at that week. Let's look at that week real quick. So that
Okay.
week is New Orleans on a Monday, it's Charlotte on a Wednesday, and Portland on a Friday. All three teams are very winnable. New Orleans not having a great season. Portland having a very, turmoil-filled season trying to figure out where they're going with their team. Charlotte, they're right with us. They're right about 500, but they're younger and exciting, so they feel like they're in a better place because they're more on the upswing, whereas we're kind of stagnant and like on a little bit on the downswing. That could be a week that I see us going. We should potentially go 3-0. I feel like it's a week we end up 1-2 somehow. I don't know. Like maybe that's just because I'm getting negative here, but it feels
Mhm.
like somehow, even though it's three home games too, three home games.
Well, we have
Actually,
four in a
that's
row
it's
there, dude. We have
yeah, it's
four in a
four
row.
in a
We got.
row.
I
They
think
get
I
they
think we
get
go
two out of
2-2.
those.
Yeah, we so we so basically what we're finding is that we're going to be a 500 team. Then we got the Wizards. We owe them one. I think we win that game.
And they're struggling
Um,
too right now. They're
yeah, they're
hurting bad.
struggling. And then we got the Kings. We got to beat the Kings. Okay,
Dude,
so
I
maybe we're
still
in the.
that's one of the games from last year that I don't even remember the final score. I just remember it's one of those games where it's like, all right, we have to win this one, and it was at home,
Mhm.
and we somehow lost. So
Yep.
I mean, I'm with you. I think we win that one, but I still remember that from last year.
Okay, so I think right now we're 2 games up going into the no 3 games up going into the last three. Okay, so Celtics Hawks, I think we lose that game. I think we can't stop Trae Young and he just destroys us.
Okay.
So now we're 2 games over 500 for the month. Celtics Pelicans. So I think we win this one, right? We lose the first game to the Pelicans. I think we get it back. We get the
Okay.
revenge game here. So 3 games up, and then Celtics Heat. I think the Heat are better than us. They're better coached, so we lose that game.
So where does
So
that put
we're
us? 9-7 for the
nine
for the
and
month?
seven. Does
Yeah.
that feel about right?
I mean that does. That puts us back at, we're 18-20 right now. That put us back at 500. I mean, so I think
Yeah,
we
there we
did
go.
this
There we go.
entire exercise to just figure out that the Celtics are probably a 500 team. But that's where it comes to, and this is exactly what we did with our school grades, right? What was explain the Jalen Rose rule again for people out there.
Jalen Rose was basically success is a function of your expectations. He always says success is a function of realistic expectations, which is what I also agree with.
Yes, and so my point in this whole exercise is the new realistic expectation on a month-to-month basis from we just went from a December schedule that looked daunting. And like I said, there's contextual, oddities with COVID and everything that changed some of that. From that month where we're like, man, if we come out of that 500, like we're doing pretty good, to a month like this where we play as of, when I made that tweet the other day, we're playing three teams that are over 500, and we're kind of
Mhm.
coming to the conclusion here, like, man, if we sit 9-7, that's a home run. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's just changing that level of expectations that maybe that's just what this team is, and it's sobering for sure, to be honest.
Hey, it's dry January. From January 1st until my birthday, which is February 23rd, I'm going into my Larry Bird year of life. I always do not drink for those 7 weeks. I go on very strict eating regimens and exercise regimens, and I normally drop about
Wait,
15,
hold
20
on. You
pounds.
go on
Yeah.
strict eating regimens. Do you want to tell the people here who may not listen to the Celtics blog podcast where we had an entire food discussion on your eating habits of what one of your last meals was?
Okay, so my girlfriend Danielle, shout out Danielle, she hard boiled like 18 eggs or whatever it was. A lot of eggs were hard boiled. So I just have like a thing of hard boiled eggs in my fridge. So rather than eat like a pack of Skittles or rather than like make myself a bowl of Frosted Flakes, I'm like, oh, there's an egg there, right? So if I don't want to have a full meal, because that's my issue is I overeat. Like once I have one thing, then I'll have like 3 more bowls of that same thing. Like portion control is the hardest thing for me. So like an egg is a singular thing, but to me, it feels like the portion that I'm eating, right? So when I go to take that hard boiled egg, I'm like, oh, this is the one thing. So if I have 2 or 3 hard boiled eggs, that's not a bad thing, right? But those are the 3 portions that I'm eating versus like 3 huge bowls of pasta or like soup or something like that. So yesterday, I go in, I'm about to go do the Celtics blog pod with you and Adam, and I'm hungry because I just gotten home from work and I didn't want to eat something big. So I go into the fridge and we got hard boiled eggs. And I'm like, I don't want to just like eat a hard boiled egg. Like that's not tasty thing. So we got this habanero hot sauce from this like amazing place here in Austin. I don't know. I forget the name of it, but it's unbelievable. I'll figure it out. And I decided just to like put a little dab of habanero hot sauce on my first bite of my egg. I bit into it. Then I put like a whole pool inside on the yolk. And then I took another bite of that. And then I was like, you know what? There's only a tiny little bit of egg left. Let's just like fill the whole rest of the egg with hot sauce. So there's no more yolk left. There was just the egg white. And I just put a whole bunch of habanero hot sauce in it. And it was delicious. So then when we finished, actually for breakfast this morning, I had 3 of those hard boiled eggs with that habanero hot sauce.
And what'd you wash it down with?
Yesterday, I washed it down with chocolate milk. And this morning, I had chocolate milk.
See, so if you guys are looking for a strict new dietary regimen to start your 2022 off right, clearly Green with Envy and Greg Manakis have you covered here. Just follow this diet and remain sober, and you got yourself a great start to the 2022 year. I don't even know how we got started talking about this, but I'm just glad we had a chance to rehash your diet from the other day. By the way, that whole podcast basically turned into like tea, eggs, and what was the other crap we were talking about? Tim Tams.
Tim Tams. We were talking about pepperoni pizza versus Hawaiian pizza. We were talking about burgers versus baby back ribs. It wasn't much basketball because, like, who wants to actually talk Celtics basketball right now? Like, not really me. Like, I'd rather just like hang out with you and like have people listen to that shit.
100%, because it feels like, I said this a moment ago. It feels like we're almost copying and pasting conversations from a few months ago into today. And it's right now, Celtics basketball is this evil goddamn cycle that just keeps going. And, actually Boston Diehards has something like this that he tweets out a bunch where it's like, it's just the cycle that keeps sucking you back in. And that's unfortunately just kind of where we're at right now. But we're diehards, we're lifelong fans. It's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna keep fighting through it. But something we want to talk about right now. Let's talk a little bit about your cousin Stevie Moy here, because this is actually pretty fun. So Greg's cousin Steve Moy is on Married at First Sight, and if you've been following the podcast, this actually isn't new news to you. It's it's maybe something you've heard before. But Greg, I'll let you go ahead and set up where we're at.
Okay, so Married at First Sight. I mean, it's self-explanatory if you don't know the concept of the show, right? You are matched. You're a single person. You're matched with somebody by experts, and then you literally marry them. You marry them when the first time you see them. So as they're walking down the aisle of the wedding day, that is the first time you see them. So it's all about like you have to meet their family, you have to meet their friends. Their friends kind of have to sign off on you. You fill out a questionnaire and all this stuff. So my cousin Steve, over the summer, that's when they were filming it. That's when he found out that he was going to be married to Noy, and I was there, right? I was there when he found out, so I was part of the episode last week. I got my quick cameo on screen. But tonight,
drop a dime, my guy.
I did drop a dime. Yeah, that was a nice dime. But tonight is when they actually got to meet the family, and my cousins are now like memes, basically. My cousins are memes on Twitter. And there's one meme that I really want to show you, because this is my cousin Dan. Dan is like one of the funniest people that I know. So look at this man. Look at this man. He's wearing a pink shirt that says sexy.
And real quick, for those of you that are listening on the podcast and not watching live, just go to our Twitter account handle @GreenMVPod. We will have this posted for you.
Like, look at this man. Like, he is now a meme, and he's just trending on Twitter. Like, I really want to know about Dan's backstory, because like Stevie's a really cool guy and everything, but the thing about the show that always makes it great is like the ancillary characters. So Dan is definitely going to be one of those ancillary characters. What is your first reaction seeing this picture? Like, is this how you feel about the Celtics?
It feels like I need to hang out with this guy. After a Celtics loss, it feels like I need to go hang out with this guy. And he owns a bar too. Am I correct in that, or he did?
He managed the
bar is what it was.
Yeah, he managed the Burn, but I don't think he does that anymore.
Well, either way, he looks phenomenal in this, man. The shirt. So to describe the shirt that he has on in this, it's a pink shirt with what's supposed to be the Pepsi symbol, but instead of the Pepsi symbol, it just says sexy. His eyes are closed, and he's got blonde streaks to his brunette hair, I guess, is what he has, and the locks are flowing. And it is just an absolutely undeniable Hall of Fame picture that I am so excited is going to become a thing on the internet.
So real quick, since we got a little time here, do you want to type into Twitter and just type in Steve Noy So like that's his wife's name, Noi. And just see what pops up. We
Like,
can just read some funny tweets.
yeah, let's try it
Okay, so
here.
there's me.
Let's see.
Okay, so Popcorn and TV, they tweeted this last week. Experts, stability is important to Noi. Also experts, let's pair her with Steve, a man with no job.
Yeah, I saw that one. Then they got
That
the
was
Nick
pretty
Young
good.
meme in there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, no shade to Steve, but Noi doesn't strike me as a woman who dates dudes without jobs. What are these experts doing? Okay. They dead ass match Noi and Steve because one is Laotian, I don't know how to pronounce that, and the other is half Chinese. No other reason. You wanted an Asian so bad for this lovely lady. Y'all said the old unemployed one will do. The show need they asked me. Poor Steve, man. Steve, okay, like we talked about this at the beginning of the pod. Like just because someone doesn't have a job, like how do they not realize if you get laid off from a job and then you're able to then travel the country for 4 months? Like that doesn't mean you're a bum. That means you're a badass, in my opinion,
Yeah,
right?
and it means
Like
you've probably been incredibly responsible up to that point with your finances to be allowed to actually do something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's an extreme benefit that not a lot of people have, regardless of what age, to be able to go ahead and do this. That's why I was very curious at the beginning when we started talking about this, like if he was for some reason not allowed to talk about other ways that, you know, and he talks a little bit about freelancing. So, you know, maybe that's his way of saying like there's other stuff that I'm doing. But yeah, I feel like we're on Steve's like PR team right now,
yeah.
and we're finding ways to combat the stay-at-home Steve moniker.
Which is just so funny. It's just so funny. No, but Steve is also like he was literally my mentor for music. Like he was the first one that allowed me to record in a studio. He was like a great rapper, great producer. The dude is just like he's one of those autodidacts where like he just teaches himself everything. And like he's kind of always been off the beaten path. Like he kind of embodies the Black Sheep Optimist. That's the name of my band down here in Austin, Texas. He kind of embodies what we're about. It's just like when you're a black sheep of your family, which I would say Steve would probably classify him as the black sheep of his family, like you have to have a certain optimism and confidence in your passions. Like this dude has developed apps. You know, he developed a behavioral tracking app for special needs students. Like he worked it with special needs students for years. He's like a great dude. And I know you know this, but I'm talking to the audience out there. Like Steve is an awesome person. And I can't wait to see, especially when you see him juxtaposed with that dude Olajuwon, who like seems like an absolute fucking mess. Like Steve is just like a great guy. And at least I think the producers on the show aren't making him out to be a bad guy. It's just like, this is the narrative. Like I see them, what I see happening here is a redemption arc. Like for thinking like TV producer mindset right now. Like I feel like they're setting Steve up for something good at the end, because right now it's just like all they're talking about is how he's unemployed, but they're also kind of they're not really showing him in a negative tone, if that makes sense. Like with Olajuwon, they're clearly painting him as like the toxic masculinity, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I watched an episode, or excuse me, a season, or most of a season of this. These episodes are pretty long. I'm gonna be brutally honest here. It's a little bit much sometimes, and so I watched a part of a season getting ready for this. Once I knew your cousin was gonna be on, and I mean, at the end of the day, they're making a TV show. They got to make it interesting. They got to frame stuff in certain ways so that, you know, they give you a little bit of a cliffhanger when you go to the break. They give you a little bit more to pull you in and come back next week. So you got to set up certain narratives. So, you know, part of it is certainly the filmmaking that does that. But
This one's hilarious.
you got to go on. What you got?
Can you see it on the screen?
Which one are you? There's two of them here. Which one are you looking at?
Oh, so wait, before you get happy, Noise, Steve, your new man, don't have income, and here's his to-do list. It is, I think it's from SpongeBob, but it's his to-do list. Nothing. Well, here it is. Here's the stay-at-home Steve one. This is from Stays, when Noi finds out the experts set her up with stay-at-home Steve. Dude, Steve is the fucking man. You ain't got no job. You ain't got no money.
Well, here's the thing. Let me ask you this, and then we can kind of wrap on this here. When are we going to be able to bring the man on the show? Is that when are we going to be able to have our chance to get Steve here on Green with Envy?
Well, I would imagine by the end of the season. I think that's
Okay.
probably like once the season is finished wrapping. Because I think contractually he's not allowed to talk about anything that happens. Like he had to make his Instagram private and all this stuff. So he's definitely not like I know that Steve will come on the show. He definitely will come on the show. He'll talk about it. But at that point, by the end of the show, maybe he'll be on like way bigger podcasts than ours.
Yeah.
Get him on.
Well,
Steve's
he's either gonna be
fall
a
in love
fan
with Steve.
favorite or he's gonna be a villain. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But we'll check back in with some Mavs talk. We'll periodically bring that back up. Make sure we have y'all set for when we can get Steve Moy on the broadcast. But for tonight, we're gonna put a wrap on this one. Back to basketball for a minute here. Tough loss for the Celtics, but it's the first show 2022. Feels good to be live. Feels good to be back. It feels good trying to get rid of these. Man, I'll tell you what. Actually, real quick, just on that COVID front, it's coming for everybody right now. So I mentioned
how you feeling, bro?
at the big. Yeah, I'm. So I myself, I tested positive a couple days ago, and I was out in El Paso with my girlfriend and her family, and we started to feel some symptoms. Right towards the end, drove back, and then probably the worst of it was Sunday night, and then into Monday, which is why we didn't record. Our plan was to record on Monday after the JB 50 burger. I mean, we didn't know he was going to put up 50 burger, but actually, shout out to Adam. He did predict that accidentally in our other text chain. But man, my throat was killing me. But I will say it's been pretty mild. So definitely have had some symptoms, been pretty mild. The only thing that really kind of freaked me out was this morning. So, trying to isolate, trying to quarantine, and not really trying to leave the house, but I got a brand new puppy, and he's the dude. He today he was getting the zoomies, just he's got this energy, and I haven't been able to properly get that energy out of him because I've been kind of sick the last couple of days. And so this morning I woke up feeling a little bit better. So I put the mask on, got up early, just was gonna take him for a 10-minute walk and make sure if I ever saw anybody, I get as far away from them as possible. Because I got to get some energy out of this guy. I feel so bad. Sure. And dude, later on in the day, I had a little bit of I don't know if it was shortness of breath, but it when that cold air hits you in your chest.
Oh yeah.
It felt like that, but it felt like that 3 hours after I came back. I was like, dude, what the hell is this? I ended up going away, and I don't feel it now, but that shit kind of rocked me, especially when I started thinking about. I started thinking about all the different, these athletes that are coming back from it and everything, thinking specifically of Jason Tatum, where he ended up on an inhaler and stuff. But luckily, like I said, Lorena's got a few symptoms that have been coming up now. I had it a little bit before her, but for the most part, everything's mild. We're vaxxed and boosted and protected as much as we can be. So, I really think that stuff helps. So I'm so thankful that there is something available to do about it. So, it's been interesting, man. But now it's kind of at the point where I just know I'm gonna be stuck in the house the next 5 to 7 days, and gotta try and take care of my guy.
Some good content, bro. Start producing some good content. Just record your own coach's corner. I want to see your coach's corner.
My coach's corner. Oh man, I don't know how that would work. St. Anne CYO didn't have too many plays that I can harken back to here. That was mostly a scramble for your life and try and figure it out on the fly. But
yeah. And everybody that's listening right now, we would really appreciate if you go and subscribe to our YouTube page. That's where we're going to be posting some pod adjacent content. I've been breaking down some plays from the Celtics. If you what's Coach's Corner? So I've been breaking down some plays, specifically the first 2 episodes centered around Jaylen Brown's playmaking. So make sure you go hit the subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you can also interact with us on these live streams. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can leave comments and we can respond to you, and we're happy to interact with you throughout the live stream. You can't do it on Twitter. If you're watching on Twitter, you can't interact on Twitter. But if you could do it on YouTube, that would be great. We really appreciate all the support that everyone's been giving us. It's just been awesome, man. It's been really awesome. Get your Lob Williams hoodies. Get those hoodies. Shout out Crowworthy. Shout out to everybody for tuning in. Team Steve, Team Noy. Let's go.
Let's go, baby. That's right. So we'll be back at you. We're going to get back in the swing of things here. 2 episodes a week coming at you. We're going to be back recording another one this weekend, and then we'll be right back at you again next week. So 2 episodes a week coming back. We're starting 2022 strong. Celtics, not so sure about them, but that's okay. We're going to keep hanging in there. They're going to keep sucking us back in, and we'll be right here to go through it with y'all. Greg, if our friends that are not listening to us live right now, if they're listening to us on the podcast, what are they going to hear when we send them on out of here?
You are going to hear a song from my band down here in Austin, Texas. I don't know what this one is going to be called, but it will be from Black Sheep Optimist. So enjoy.
Everybody else, peace and Happy New Year.
tomorrow. Take these pieces of my secrets and leave them at the crossroad. I ain't sleeping, but I've been dreaming of who